This is the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS show with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, everybody? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome to the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Preview Show. We got 9 games Friday on the main slate. James, how are we doing?
Doing good. Happy Friday, John. That's Fantasy Alarm Friday, indeed. The Family Friday, indeed.
Family Friday, that's true. We got the Family Listener League contest here for the 9-game main slate on DraftKings today as well. Our third. I came in second last week, so I got a little bit of a reputation to uphold there in the Family League this week.
I think I finished last both weeks.
Well, you know what? You go home big or you go home, James. You know,
that is actually how it's been this year, John. It's been the mountaintops or the absolute bottom of the ocean for pretty much every slate. So
it is. We're watching this 2-game Thursday slate. Just first quarter still of Hawks Magic. We watched. The Pacers Bucks game. Pacers went out. We're up like 18 in the first quarter, and then Giannis realized what time the game started, and he absolutely took over that game, ultimately leading still to a loss, though, a big comeback from Indiana in the fourth quarter there, led by Ben Mathurin, led by Tyrese Halliburton as well. Some big quarters there in the fourth, but monster game out of Giannis. A slate killer for some, maybe. Jalen Smith scratched after roster lock. He was over 40% rostered in the single entries that I was in. So, again, we're still kind of watching this Magic Hawks game get going. They're still in the first. But we're turning our attention to the 9-gamer on a Friday because we have some pretty good matchups, including a run back of Wednesday's big game, Charlotte-Washington. That one had a 240 total. Ended up being a blowout in that one here, but still another matchup here, this time in Washington with a very high game total. Some price adjustments may make the rostership a little different this time around. Notably, LaMelo Ball is not $8,900, but rather $10,000 on this slate here. But still, for 9 games, some good spots here.
Yeah, some good spots. And so, like, just looking at some Vegas lines, 241.5 in that aforementioned Charlotte-Washington game. Washington giving 2 points to Charlotte here. So that is the slate high. The only other game over 230 is Clippers-Mavericks, 231.5. The Dallas Mavericks 2-point home favorites. Clippers 0-2 with their new roster thus far. And then Utah-Memphis is the next game that's like teetering on 230. It's 229.5. Wouldn't be surprised. I actually see BetMGM, it's at 231.5. So there's some discrepancies there. Memphis 4.5-point home favorites. Hard to see Memphis as a home favorite against anybody, but you know, we've seen
Utah matchup where we just saw them get run out of the gym a few games prior, right?
Yeah. So those are like the 3 games that stand out in Vegas. Boston 10.5-point favorites. They're running it back with Brooklyn, who is just battered by injury.
No Ben Simmons in that game. Ben Simmons missed that game last time as well.
Yeah, I think he's questionable here. Questionable here, but he has missed 2 of the last 3 games overall. Cam Johnson potentially returning in that game for likely returning. He's listed probable. So maybe they lose Simmons, maybe they gain Johnson, but yeah, that's it on the Vegas front.
All right, let's break into our DraftKings slate breakdown here for everyone. Talk to me about how we're going to go about approaching this at the point guard spot. We have Luka, obviously in a really great matchup here against the Clippers with Westbrook and Harden leading their front court. Then we have SGA at 10.5, LaMelo Ball at 10K. Your clear separators at the price point.
Yeah, so I think if you want to play Luka, it's fine. I don't love the 11.7, but he went for 60 last time. That's still above 5x at this current price tag. It is what it is, I think. Every slate, like, you can play him. I'd almost rather play Kyrie, honestly, for $3,000 cheaper. Not going to play either probably, but you can if you wanted to. SGA is obviously an elite play here. 66 fantasy points last time out. He's now gone for 63 times this year in 7 games. He's averaging 52 fantasy points. We're getting a pretty good baseline of production basically every night from SGA. So perfectly fine getting there. I think the debate's probably like, if you're spending up, would you rather just save $500 in a better game environment? Because the Kings like haven't been playing fast. It's been a really slow thing for them without De'Aaron Fox. The offense looks out of sync. And then you get LaMelo Ball, no Rozier. We're running it back in the Washington matchup. The peripheral stats were like kind of bad for LaMelo. He just scored really well. He didn't get in foul trouble. He played 36 minutes, lost out on a couple minutes in blowout runs. So is there potential for 38 minutes in a more competitive setting, which we have to kind of assume is going to be the case. So yeah, I guess. I'm a little split on how to go about like splitting the difference between them. I think LaMelo, I don't even know. Like, I want to say he's gonna garner a lot more ownership.
I think more people go to LaMelo, run it back here. I think SGA makes for a nice pivot. I also just think everyone's going to pay 11-2 for Embiid when we get there. So I don't even know, depending on what the value looks like on this slate, if many people are going to be paying up the guard spot anyways, given the way JoJo has played. Now, we've seen Detroit get into some matchups where, it could maybe Embiid doesn't play the full game. We know it's Nick Nurse. But I'm not here to say Detroit's going to be able to hang with Philly for 4 quarters either. So something to consider when it comes to that. As we work our way down the point guard position, we got Harden at $80, $200, Maxey's at 81, Van Vliet 75. Anybody in this like mid-tier range that's popping off the page for you?
Hey man, like if you're not going to play Joel Embiid, why not play Tyrese Maxey? Like it almost feels like one of the two are going to have a big game, if not both, at every step of the way. I mean, it's another 50 fantasy points. Dude, he's James Harden-like. Is he not? Like in terms of peripheral stats, but he's a better shooter than James Harden has been in his career. It's just like, he's elite. He's currently the odds-on favorite to win Most Improved Player. I know the Scotty Barnes odds are it's a meteoric rise there, John. But if this is the way Maxey's going to play, if you I'd rather pay up for a point guard, well, then you could play a point guard and pair him with Maxey and just double up and not play Embiid, right? Mm-hmm. So I think there's multiple approaches. Definitely fine getting Maxey. Van Vliet's fine, 7,500. I mean, 31 fantasy points in 29 minutes. He's been playing big minutes. Like him and Dylan Brooks probably have been the 2 safest Rockets in terms of minutes.
Do the Pelicans compete in this game if they're down people?
That's the key question, right? It's, can the Pelicans, isn't that crazy though? Just throwing it out there. I know that we had an off-air conversation about how good Ime Udoka can be as a coach, or on air. I don't remember if that was they're blowing people out, like the Rockets. And I know they made a lot of additions and they have a different team, but like they've literally blown the doors off 3 teams in a row, the Kings twice and the Lakers. So yeah, I think it's a really valid question. Now Zion with the baby thing, we don't know. We saw Derek White missed 2 games for Boston. Everyone's different, but maybe you use that as like a baseline. Herb is questionable again. We saw what their defense looks like without Herb Jones. So it's a fair point. Houston at home again. If you think that this game stays close, I'm okay getting to Houston. But John, to that point again, and it's something that we all in hindsight talked about, 217 game total in this. And so Houston being only 2-point favorites, I feel like suggests maybe we're getting Zion back here or Herb Jones. But 217 total, and you brought it up in the Discord, and there was like some discourse about it, about how maybe we talked about it and it wasn't a good spot because it was the pace and the good defense, and then
we did not like this spot for the Lakers. It wasn't just the fact that AD got ruled out. that us, along with the rest of the masses, really decided to pivot down and get to Christian Wood, get to Austin Reeves. Some of the people went to LeBron James. It didn't change the matchup, though. The matchup was still a low game total against a good defensive team this year at a slow pace. And then they just got blown out because AD had basically been their best player this year. So, I'm with you. Still a slow pace game here against a team that may be missing some stars. Bradley Beal played 24 minutes in his debut. He's still 7K. He was a point per minute player. We don't know if he's going to be limited or not. I haven't gotten a word yet on any sort of limitations here. On Beal at all against the Lakers here?
Nah, not until the minutes are increased. Vogel did say there was a minute cap. He didn't give us the cap, but his minutes were monitored. It was different. Like they said that with Devin Booker. Booker played like 35 minutes upon returning. I think Beal not playing at all, like since the preseason, is going to be more of a slow burn. Like maybe we get up to 28, 30, and I think, maybe I'll miss out on playing Bradley Beal. But on a 9-game slate, I don't feel like I need to chase Beal possibly playing 30 minutes.
Sure. We saw a new starting lineup for Utah on Wednesday's game. They started Keontae George, Agbaji, John Collins in the center, Lauri Markkanen at power forward, and Jordan Clarkson was your shooting guard. In turn, Clarkson took 26 shots against the Pacers because George and Agbaji are not really offensive first players here. $6,400 against Memphis here. He had 39 fantasy points against him in that 26-minute blowout win that they had. How are you feeling about Jordan Clarkson at this price point right now?
I mean, he's the ultimate tournament guy, and you're right. Like, they need offense. Obviously, it's him and Markkanen, especially if they're going to have Kelly O coming off the bench, which seems to be the case. I'm okay getting to Clarkson in tournaments. We just know. Just look at the season. You just go through his logs. It's like 45, 15, 18, 37, 39, 16, 10. Like the very high ceiling, very low floor.
Yeah, for sure. And some of our favorite value plays are now priced up. Sasser is $5,800 now. Burks and Ivy have already been ruled out for this game. 28 minutes for Sasser, 11 of 17 from the floor, 26 actual. If you block the name, it's the whole routine here. Block the name, look at the numbers, and you'd be like $5,800 for the guy that's giving me 30 plus in 4 of the last 5. That's over 6x return. Yeah, he's in our player pool, but it's Philly. Do you trust Sasser here at $5,800? You have Jordan Hawkins now up to $5,600. Killian Hayes is $5,400. How are you approaching some of these guards now that are priced up a bit?
First off, happy that DraftKings did this, right? I think this is much needed instead of just like handing out chalk. And all the chalk was bad, essentially, except Sasser the other night. So but they needed to, like, regardless if the chalk was good or bad, they needed to update the prices. Sasser is obviously not as much of a priority, I would say, but it is $5,800, and he has paid it off in 4 of the last 5 games. He was insanely efficient in that second half. Like Milwaukee, he took that game over because he went into half 4 points, 1 turnover. You're like, 3.5 fantasy points. That's not good.
Yeah,
he was chalky, and then suddenly you're like, oh wait, this guy is just a bucket. And
Jordan Hawkins 2.0.
Yeah. Speaking of Jordan Hawkins here at point guard now. But yeah, Sasser's okay. Probably not going to get to Hawkins 56, but obviously GPP play if you think he can have a repeat, knowing that he has a 50-point ceiling. Like, he probably still is kind of, him and Sasser both, like, they've shown ceiling. So like, if you want them in your player pool, by all means.
Okay. What about Keontae George?
The price is definitely a little sketchy. I love the 9 assists.
31 minutes in that game, the 23 fantasy points.
Yeah, love the assists. Love the minutes. Could definitely use a couple more shot attempts. But have to like the minutes, have to like the fact that he's going to start, and have to like the fact that Memphis is just awful, right? Like, they're bad defensively. So that's how I kind of stand on Keontae George. I'm kind of indifferent at the price.
Okay. If Keon Ellis starts again, would you go there?
No, absolutely not. No.
Still, no, not at all. Okay.
No, he plays, I mean, I'd rather play Davion Mitchell at that point. He's
okay. Anything else?
No, not that I see.
Okay. Let's move on over to the shooting guard position here. Ant Edwards is 9K against the Spurs. You got PG at 88, Kyrie Irving 87, Brandon Ingram 87. Bane is at 85. Cade Cunningham's at $8,400. Your 8K and above tier. Some guys we've definitely played and had interest in this season. Any thoughts on how you'd go about approaching the top end of these guys here?
I mean, dude, Ant is on one. He is on one. In every game, he is on one. 51, 61, 50 in his last 3 games. He's gone for 49 in 4 of his last 5. He did the 51 fantasy point last game. John, we got the steals from Ant that we wanted. We've been clamoring for those since the beginning of the year because he was so good last year. 3 steals, 2 blocks. He had that sick windmill dunk as well. And Edwards is a star, and I can't wait to see him playing in the NFL later in his career. Definitely down there. I'm going to continue to pass on every Clipper until they give me a reason to play them. And Brandon Ingram, if no Zion, is fine. 25 shots in 32 minutes is great. 24, 6, and 3 is fine. I'd rather just play Desmond Bane, who I feel like has a better matchup and a better chance of keeping this game competitive. Cade Cunningham, ultimate GPP play, per usual. But he's just coming off an absolute monster game. Went for 53 his last time out.
I mean, we talk about this with him, right? He goes off. He shows the ceiling he can have. Can he hang with Philly is the question. I don't know. Yes. Philly just beat Boston, though. I don't know if you saw the 2-minute report there, James. Joel Embiid actually had stepped out of bounds with the basketball with 4.5 seconds left. So the Celtics down 3 should have had the ball on their side of the floor there to set up for a final shot. Referees already screwing over the Celtics here. That's neither here nor there. Moving down into the mid 7K tier here. We talked about it before. I mean, we didn't really care for much. Jordan Poole is $7,200, but I played 20 minutes in their blowout win. Didn't shot 3 of 12. They scored 132 points, and it wasn't him. He wasn't it. It's Kyle Kuzma, right? Guy that we're definitely going to be looking to go back to. I'm not playing Jordan Poole. It's not where I'm looking to go. And there's not much in this spot that I would be looking to play, truthfully.
No. Honestly, how about this? Next person I would play, I'd play Jalen Green. Jalen Green has had a really nice season. They don't really move his price. He had a bad game against Sacramento and a bad game against Orlando, but pretty consistently 20+ actual, 30+ fantasy points. And then Derek White. And that's pretty much where I'm living in this mid-tier.
Derek White, a great FanDuel play with the blocks and steals. Outside of that Indy game, he's had 3+ blocks and steals in every game this season.
He's just good, dude. I keep saying it to you. I'm all aboard the Derek White is the Celtics' second best player train, and he's doing nothing to disprove my theory. And the other members of the team are doing nothing to disprove that theory either.
Sure.
Jaylen Brown had a floor basement cellar game. So Derek White, 57, 38 fantasy points. His price went down $100, $200.
I'm in. I like it. Lonnie Walker, Kelly Oubre, anybody here in this low 6K, high 5K range around Derek White?
I guess Lonnie Walker would be fine. Kelly Oubre, I'm indifferent about it, 6K. I don't know what the ceiling is, just given he does literally nothing but score and maybe rebound for this team.
He had 8 rebounds last game, kind of a ceiling rebound game for him.
Right. And I think that's the problem because I don't know how many more stealing rebound games we're going to have with JoJo and Maxey, because Maxey had 9 rebounds again too. So, I'll probably pass on the price, especially you can play White for cheaper. Kevin Huerter, 5,400. 40 minutes, dude. He found a competitive game, 40 minutes.
Hitting a couple more shots, too. 3 of 8 and 4 of 9 from 3 the last couple of games. Definitely clutch.
Yep, definitely clutch. So for sure.
Matt Ryan, if no one's playing again.
Matt Ryan, if no one's playing. I don't love the 4,400. That's all I'll say. He talk about scoring dependent. He is very scoring dependent.
And Luke Kennard, the better Matt Ryan.
the better dude. He is the lefty better Matt Ryan, right? I mean, why play Matt Ryan when you can just play Luke Kennard, who you said did you see what Luke Kennard did when he first checked in?
Yeah,
I
he hit
said
three
no. He
straight
said
threes.
he hit 3 threes in
He had
under a
9
minute.
points in 2 minutes on the floor. So
That's,
he missed everything else after that, but he had it. He was there. All right,
you
any
know,
value shooting guards then after Kennard here? Anybody you'd be interested in playing?
I don't think so. I guess it's interesting to see Shamit, but like you mentioned, there was a blowout in that game, so probably not.
Okay. Small forward position, JT's 10-1. Price is coming down a little bit on Tatum here. LeBron's at $9,600. We've discussed some of these other guards. Lauri at 86. Lauri was another one in that game that was on pace against Memphis for like 50-plus fantasy points. Had 19 and 11 in 28 minutes. Had 40 fantasy points. I said on the Wednesday show with the lineup change, it felt like Lauri could be in for a ceiling rebound game. Came out at 9 in 35 minutes. I think you can go back to the well here, and he'll have a pretty good opportunity to grab some boards.
Yes, I really do like Markkanen here. I mean, just like has flashed a lot of like the first Memphis game. Matt was off to a massive start, and that game just obviously tilted you out of your mind, especially.
Yeah, I was on pace for a really, really good evening, and then they all just stopped playing.
I actually like the 3 people you shouted. I do like the Tatum price. And we got 51 fantasy points on a night where he went 6 of 14. It just shows you the versatility of Jason
15
Tatum.
boards, man. Double digits, 3 of 10. So
yeah, I think he's due for one of those 60s that he dropped on opening night, and it could be especially in a game if Ben Simmons sits. I'm not really sure what they're gonna do. The LeBron thing is a little interesting because he's been really good with Anthony Davis, right? Like he's been really good with Anthony Davis on the floor. I don't know if the Lakers are good enough to hang with Phoenix if Davis doesn't play. Davis is questionable, might have just been an off night, but like another thing, like the Lakers are traveling again, right? And it's like, do they care when they travel?
Does AD miss a Kevin Durant matchup? Like
yeah.
Does he care about those things? Who knows?
We'll see how his groin spasms are treating him, but so I like Tatum. I'm okay with LeBron. I do like that Markkanen shout for sure.
Gordon Hayward is probable to play with a hamstring strain.
Uh-oh.
We knew it was getting to be a little bit too good to be true with Gordon. He was healthy for too long. Now he's probable. But
he's healthy for too long. He's played 7 games. He's played 7 games.
Yeah, but like this is like peak Gordon Hayward production for 7 games. So I'm going to play him at $7,100 again. He's still paying off 6x almost at the price tag, 5.5x at the price tag. And I think there's room for more because he only played 32 minutes in that game. If he would have played at least a couple more. Had it been a closer contest, only had 4 rebounds in that game. I like him in cash, but I think he's good enough for a GPP filler in the mid-tier as well, just a safe play with some upside. But obviously not great to hear the hammy pop here for a guy that is just notorious for ailments. Oscar Thompson, price is still $6,900. 15 rebounds against Milwaukee here. Didn't really have the offense going. I don't really love the spot, but I want to give him a shout because he is, again, a guy that you and I do like to mix into lineups every now and then.
Yeah, it's probably a price thing for me. I think, you get Duren back and suddenly, not that Duren's like this offensive specimen, but he's taken up a lot of space on the interior, 10 shots, 11 points for Duren, shots he returns, and suddenly Oscar Thompson's shots are down. Sasser shots go up. So 6,900, he's great peripherally, but I don't love the shot attempts for 6,900.
This being a 9-game slate, you almost feel like there's a notable absence of players, right? Because we're used to the 14-plus games here. So we get into this mid-tier range again. It's like Keldon's at home, but Minnesota feels like a team that could just blow them out like they've been getting blown out by every other team. So, can you rely on that price tag? Reeves, again, maybe at 63, but tough. to go with. Denny at 59, someone that played 27 minutes in that game, didn't shoot well, but had 21 fantasy points still.
Yeah, it's okay. I think it's hard pressed to have a no from me for this game, right? Like this game has a 241 total, so I'd be okay playing pretty much every piece of it.
Because it kind of just falls off quick here for me again at this position. So, I don't know. Once you get past Denny and some of these other mid-tier plays, it feels like you're grasping a little bit at some of these guys. Dylan Brooks, Harry B, Tim Hardaway Jr., Royce O'Neal. Like, do you have a favorite small forward in this like sub 6K range?
So I think the case can be made for a couple guys. Brooks has just suffered from blowouts, right? Like 28 minutes, 18 fantasy points isn't great, but he's playing 38 minutes every other night. So an extra 10 minutes, who knows? Dylan Brooks, what if he hits 2 threes, gets a steal, and 2 rebounds in that span, and suddenly like 30 fantasy points? Lakers, same thing, 11 fantasy points in 25 minutes. He had foul trouble in that game. I'm okay with Dylan Brooks 52. I'm also okay with either Minnesota small forward. They also just blew the doors off the Pelicans and never needed their guys to return. Both guys basically split time. So I'd be okay right there. There's like nothing else. I'm not chasing the Derrick Jones game.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I know he played 28 minutes the game before as well in Orlando.
I mean, he's starting for them. So like he's gonna play minutes, but he doesn't shoot consistently enough.
Right.
You really need the defense. You need him to hit the glass, and then you still need him to get 6 to 8 actual points, right? So, it's tough. Maybe as a lineup filler, Tari Eason, 14 minutes, 24 minutes. I mean, he was a 24 fantasy points. He was a fantasy point per minute beast last year. Was it just simply the blowout run here that got him in the game?
So they said he's playing 15 minutes. That was the Ime Udoka quote before the game. They said 15 minutes. That's what we're going to limit. If I were to find out, and we got word that Tari Eason's limit was 20, I'd play him.
I think 18 to 20. We've played Jalen Smith. We've played Ineki Aganku, who's got a ridiculous stat line going in 5 minutes right now. He's got 2 points, 2 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks in 5 minutes.
Is that good, John? Is that good?
So like we've played guys in this low 4K that are these just fantasy point per minute monsters. We talked a lot about Tari Eason last year in that same breath. So I agree with you. If we do get word that he's gonna, get bumped up, what did we just see Jalen Smith do 2 slates ago? 14 minutes. He had like 35 fantasy points or something like that.
Yeah. No. Well, he ended up playing 20. He played 25 minutes, but he was 19 and 11 in 25 minutes. Like he doesn't need. He played. Only reason I know that is because he played more minutes than Miles.
Maybe it was the game before that. He had like 25 fantasy points in 14 minutes. It was something very, very low there. So
yeah, that one. That was the one. You're right. He had 12 minutes. Yeah, 12 minutes, and like it was like 9 and 9 and 12 minutes with like a block and a steal or something like.
It's 12 minutes. He played 12 minutes. He had 9.7 rebounds, 2 assists. So
in 12 minutes.
In 12 minutes.
And also, what, 3 fouls in the 12 minutes, I think?
Yeah. So, again, Tari Eason is definitely of that same kind of cloth. Agbaji starts, he didn't do much. What if Roddy starts for Williams if Williams isn't playing? Any interest? Like, how do you think that rotation shakes out if Zaire Williams isn't starting?
I guess it would depend.
Just play whoever starts, I guess.
Yeah.
Concert,
I don't know. I guess they could technically start Kennard too, right? At small forward.
True. Actually, that would be probably. I think Kennard's backing up their guard spot though, but
they don't have any. They don't have anyone to back up.
They have no depth. They really don't have any depth on that team. That's why they had to sign Biyombo. All right, let's move to power forward here. I'm on the playbook for Friday, so I'll decipher it all. I'll figure out the right way to go, and we'll get more news as the day moves along as well. Power forward position here. KD is 10-2. I wanted to play him against the Bulls. I kind of talked myself out of it, unfortunately. 42 minutes in that OT game, 25, 6, and 9 in that one. So still an elite spot for him there. Wemby's 84, not going to play it. Just not the right spot to play it. There will be times where we will want to play it at $8,400. This isn't one of them. Triple J, $8,300, against Utah in that last game, 26 minutes, 33 fantasy points, but he's home now. The blocks and steals prop hasn't come through at home like it did last year. Must have changed the official scorer after all the controversy. But I'd be willing to run JJ back here, knowing that now it's John Collins, Markkanen, Olynyk rotation in that front court.
Agreed on all fronts.
All fronts. Kuzma, a long way to get to him at 8K.
Yeah, man, just give the guy minutes. And it still wasn't a lot of minutes. It just still wasn't even a lot of minutes because the blowout. Like, he still only played 31 minutes. He had that crazy stretch at the end of the first half. I don't know if you saw that, where he, scored 9 straight points. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is – because, he got off to a good start. But
he's one of the reasons they blew out Charlotte.
Yeah, he was so good. And he's kind of been that good. All year, it's just been a lot. They've just been involved in a lot of blowouts. So, no reason not to think if he plays 30 minutes. Because look, all 4 games that he has played 30 minutes, John, he has gotten for 44 plus fantasy points. So he's giving you north of 5x every single game he plays 30 minutes.
Yep, I like it. Chet's at 78. Any interesting in Sacramento?
He's for what he is, and he is really good. He worries me with the fouls, man. He worries me with the fouls. He got into foul trouble again in that game, in the Cleveland game, just 29 minutes because of it. That's tough. When you're going up against Sabonis, where no De'Aaron Fox, the entire offense is running through Domantas Sabonis.
Sure. John Collins is $6,500. I know we definitely like that spot for him. Jabari at 59 kind of had a down game, but again, it was a blowout, so I can't blame him for playing only 26 minutes there. Where else are we looking at the power forward position here?
So I got a question here. And I didn't realize we got a position change for Mikal Bridges. No Cam Thomas, right? I understand what.
Well, you thought you said he's probable, right?
Or no, Cam Thomas is out.
Oh, Cam Johnson.
Right? Cam Johnson is
coming back.
Return. Yes.
Got it. Okay.
So Cam Thomas is out for 2. He has 2-week absence, according to Shams.
Okay.
So Thomas out, Claxton out. Cam Johnson definitely going to be limited with all the injuries he's had.
Sure.
Bridges was that dude for them last year. And I get it. It's Boston. It's not an easy spot.
Yeah, 38 fantasy points against him in that blowout loss.
Yeah, man. And he's 31 the game after that against Milwaukee, 31 actual. He's still scoring at a high clip, still averaging 20 points per game.
Sure.
If there was a tournament play on Brooklyn that I'd be interested in, it's probably Mikal Bridges, because if that game is to stay at all competitive, it's because Bridges is having one of those nuke games.
Did Hayward get a position change too? Was he small forward only? Now he's power forward, or he both?
I think you're right. I think he was small forward only. I think that's a nice little bump for Gordy.
Sure. We chasing Keegan's shooting. 17 shots is 17 shots. He just didn't hit any of them, but
yeah, he just needs to make shots. Dude, this is OKC has been in some really high scoring games. Yeah. They're 20th in defensive rating and they're 5th in pace. So if Keegan just makes shots, he's going to nuke a slate because he's playing without De'Aaron Fox and just taking a bunch of shots, just not making anything. And the peripheral stats, John, that's what we were talking about, still there, right?
He's 2 years away from being Michael Porter Jr., right? Yeah, so sort of light version of Michael Porter Jr.
Oh no, yeah, maybe.
We got we were getting the rebounds earlier in the year from him, right?
Yeah,
8, 7, 8, 6.
No, you're right.
You just need him to knock down some more shots. That's all it is.
That's a good shout.
All right, where are we going next?
Nasri?
Maybe. There's a Nasri, Santi Aldama. I agree with you. Probably
that tier. It's probably the next two. Nas didn't have a great game, but so be it. And Edwards did everything, and you just move on. Him and Gobert did literally everything.
They didn't get any blowout run. They just they're up. He didn't play 22 minutes. What's he supposed to do?
But Santi, dude. So, like, this is another thing that they could do. Realistically, if they just wanted to go huge, which Utah's not doing anymore, that would have been ideal if they did. They could just play Santi at the 3 if there was no Zaire. But I think either way, there's gonna be multiple spots where he's backing up. Like, he can back up the 4 and he can back up the 5, and that's what Jaren Jackson can. So, like, both are versatile. I think Santi, John, close to a core play.
I mean, I've been talking about him since the beginning of the season, saying this is the guy that I was kind of excited to see them get back. He was supposed to be ready to go, but he rolled his ankle in the preseason and wasn't able to get out there. So once Steven Adams went down, I thought Santi Aldama was for sure someone that we would see a lot of. They had to work him back into that rotation. I definitely like him at 48. And we know it doesn't take much for Jaren Jackson Jr. to get in foul trouble.
No, it does not. So, and he's going to be guarding Markkanen if they do this lineup again, right? Like it's Markkanen that he's guarding.
Yep, because Biyombo will be starting at the 5 for them. So, listen, I definitely would agree. Aldama will be in a lot of lineups for me here. We talked about all these guys already. Trendon Watford's the one I guess we didn't. Played 19 minutes there against the Clippers. Do you think he had some run here against the Celtics?
I think there's a couple scenarios he does, right? No Ben Simmons. If Simmons sits, they just might need the size naturally. And if there's a blowout, he's probably playing in both those scenarios. So, yeah, large field tournaments, I'm fine with that.
All right, anybody else?
No.
Close it out here at the center position. We have JoJo.
Yes, we do.
He's 11-2 against another double-double. 27-10, 4-4-1 against Celtics. Went for 54. Has a 75 game and an 81 on the ledger already this year. Going up against Detroit. Feels like the makings of a smash spot again here for Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I said it to you before the show. We were like talking through like the point guard position, and even on the show, like during the show, and I think I'm just gonna get to the point where I'm just like, I can play those point guards, but also I can play Joel Embiid. Right. So I'm probably going to just plug Embiid and figure out the rest of my lineup from there. We'll see. Things could change, obviously, but right now, 11-2 Joel with 80-point ceiling and the offense flowing through him. And he has 2 4+ block games. Like, I know he's a good defender, but if we're going to get ceiling defensive games from Embiid too, while he's involved as a passer like he's been, I mean, dude, forget it. This guy is going to have as many like 80 fantasy point games as Jokic is going to have throughout the year.
Agreed. Moving our way down the position here. Again, you do have Sabonis against OKC at 99. AD is 98 if he's in. I definitely have interest in Anthony Davis. The man was giving you 60 fantasy points on the reg here before that injury game against Miami. So if the hip groin spasms, whatever he's dealing with, resolves itself, then you have a really great bargain, I think, at Anthony Davis, who's giving you basically a baseline of 6x this year outside of that game against Miami. Working our way down here, we talked to Zinger against Brooklyn last time out. Had a decent game, just only played 30 minutes because of the blowout nature of it, but 22-7. He's at $7,800. I don't mind giving him a look. Your boy Şengün here, questionable with an ankle sprain. If he is not in, what does that do for the center spot here for Houston?
So there's a couple things. One, they could start Jock Landale, who you and I both know is a good fantasy point per minute guy. So there's that. They also could probably just decide to start Jabari at center and play Jayshawn Tate would be my guess. Boban? No, never. They're not going to play Boban. I mean, like, maybe he'll play like 3 minutes.
Start and play 6 minutes? You don't know.
If Boban were to start, he'd be the first person in my lineup. I don't care if he played 9 minutes. Like, he'd have 23 fantasy points in 9 minutes. My expectation would be they start Jayshawn Tate and Smith at the 5, or they go Jock Landale. That would probably be my best guess.
Jock could be the highest rostered player on the slate.
Yeah, the only problem would be like the positional thing. You'd be playing 2 centers because if you're wanting to play Embiid, so honestly that wouldn't be the worst for us wanting to play Embiid because it would lower Embiid's ownership, right? Like you would just naturally get Embiid at lower
Or a lot of
ownership in
people
that case.
jam them both. But then
Or jam them both.
You lose the flexibility a little bit there.
And then you lose flexibility. So yeah, there's both of those scenarios.
Are you worried about Christian Wood? If
I'm worried about
out again.
Yeah.
4 fouls, 1 shot.
His price went up $700. And he had 6 fantasy points. We didn't even talk about where's Rui, who's probably a power forward that we skipped over.
That's true. Rui Hachimura is a power forward at $4,600.
Like I heard.
So he's the Anthony Davis guy then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like, here's the thing, right? We've seen this song and dance like a million times. Player X subs in for player Y. When player X is a star, player Y sucks, player Z dominates.
Yeah.
What happens the second game? Player Z, highly owned. Player Y is not owned at all. Despite starting again, player Y goes off at low ownership. And everyone says, why couldn't you do that when I played you last game? Well, everyone pivots to player Z, and he does nothing. That's what's going to happen. So
a lot of with the algebra equation, but I hear you. I get what you're
saying. I ain't reading all that, but good luck or sorry
that happened to you. That's great. Or I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah, that was one of those. Sorry.
That's fine. I stopped paying attention. Collins and Durant are about $6,500. They're in the mid tier. Fine going with Durant. Probably not. No. Actually, I said Collins and Durant are the same price, but Zach Collins is also $6,400. Mark Williams is $63. He was off to a very good start, and then foul trouble and blowouts got in his way. And we said it either during the stream or to each other that we were worried about a Nick Richards game happening. Any interest in some value center plays here?
So yeah, I mean, Mark Williams is fine. The foul trouble, as you said, obviously derailed a really good game, but even then Richards, like, he scored like a lot of points right away and then just kind of like tailed off a little bit. I'd be okay getting back to Mark Williams. I don't have much interest in Jalen Duren with 5 fouls in 29 minutes, and now he has to face Joel Embiid. That's a tough sell for me. John, I'm actually okay going to like Gobert if you think San Antonio can at all keep this game close. He's kind of been really good. He's been better than Karl-Anthony Towns, which is crazy. He's coming off a ceiling game, but he had 21 rebounds, 17 and 21. And we're getting Rudy Gobert of old. There's been a lot of talk, obviously, about this defense. I mean, think about when Rudy Gobert was at his peak. When Donovan Mitchell and him were in Utah, they were the number 1 defense in the NBA. And he was the defensive player of the year a bunch of times. I don't think this is a coincidence that they have changed their defensive system and they're all buying in and they're the best defense in basketball. And Rudy Gobert has 2 blocks in all but 2 games this year. So 6,800 against the Spurs. I'm okay getting to Gobert. I feel like that's a pretty safe play. He's been consistently hitting the 5x mark at this price.
Sure.
And then below that, like, what was the Zubats minutes? 29. Yeah, it's about what I expected.
Lively didn't play in that game too, so if Lively's out, could be a little bit of a better matchup. Olynyk coming off the bench, wasn't what we wanted, but it was also a blowout in that game. So he had 5 fouls. But
he had 4 fouls really early.
Came off the bench against Memphis in that game, and basically was one of the reasons that game finished the way it did. He didn't miss when he entered that game. 14, 8, and 5. Always a tournament play for Kelly O. You probably are worried about the price though for him, right? Gafford 53, got into his foul trouble problems in a blowout. Only played 13 minutes. So, some guys down here with some risk, but some upside.
Yeah, I think that's a good way I think that's a great way to like depict all of these guys, right? Like, I would say all of them. Like, I'd even throw, to be fair to Bismack, he played 30 minutes again. So like,
and they lowered his price $200.
Yeah. And they lowered his price. I guess the John Collins factor here and Kelly O factor could mean more Santi and Jaren, right? Like naturally, just how they play. But I don't want to like game theory that too much. I don't know how much Bismack's going to chase people out to the perimeter, right? Eubanks is kind of too expensive for me. I mentioned it to off air. JRE is definitely. I mean, he started. If there's no Zion, he's going to start again. So maybe we do go to JRE. But I mentioned before we got on, if there's no Simmons, Daron Sharp just has to play, right? Like he just has to play. He had 11, 10, and a steal in 19 minutes, 26 fantasy points, 200. And like if this game blows out, there's no way Daron Sharp doesn't get blowout run, right? Daron Sharp's going to be in my player pool. I don't know, like if Simmons is ruled out early, I'm going to have a really hard time not clicking
who else are they going to play, right? Like they go DFS at 5 again? Like that's not going to work.
Or it's Watford. It's Watford and Sharp. But like even in that scenario, both of them probably playing blowout. Probably both if that game blows out. Like if Simmons doesn't play, they're in trouble. So yeah, I like both those Brooklyn punt centers, and obviously Landale is going to be the elephant in the room if Şengün doesn't play.
Agreed. All right, let's build a lineup for the folks here. We just plugging in Embiid and working around it, or how do you want to do about it?
Yes, let's do that. And then some Memphis value, probably Kennard, Santi. Both were like two of the better values that we liked.
All right, that's 59. So about 6K a play. We can work with that.
That feels good, right? That feels pretty good.
Derek White?
Yeah, I like Derek White here. You just need to keep that game competitive.
Yeah, competitive-ish. Yeah, for
yeah.
Competitive-ish for a little bit.
Guard spot Clarkson?
Yeah, Clarkson works.
Do you like Clarkson? I mean, that's a great game. I'm not gonna not play that game, right? Because the last time that game is an elite game environment.
Agreed. 58-66. Let's get Kuzma in here.
Yep.
Power forward only kind of blows. 4,800 for utility.
It sure does. It sure does.
All right, let's see here. What can we do? What was our utility? Do we have like another? Do we have a value? Do we have a 3K guy? It was Tower, right?
There's Sharp at 43. That gets you like Dylan Brooks. That's about. I think that's literally it, right? That gets you Dylan Brooks.
Yeah. All right.
That's not. I mean, that's not.
We can workshop it, but for now, that's fine. There's probably more news to come, for the day. But for now,
Tari Eason, 3,800.
Well, that's what I said. Like, do we want to just say Tari Eason and see if he gets more minutes here?
Over Brooks.
Tari could also just be the pivot to Landale when he gets ruled if Şengün gets ruled out, right?
Imagine they move Jabari to the 5. They start Eason. Udoka's just like, yeah, no limit. We saw enough last game. Oh my god, dude! 100% Tari Eason. 100% Tari Eason in that scenario.
Okay, we still need a small forward though. It doesn't really solve our problems.
Play Eason at small forward.
Oh, Eason is small forward. Beautiful. Love that for us.
And then we have 5,800, right?
Yep, $5,800 Sasser. Why not? Let's just run it out there. Guy's a shooter. Gonna start. Derek White, Luke Kennard, Tari Eason, Santi Aldama, Joel Embiid, Jordan Clarkson, Kyle Kuzma, Marcus Sasser. There's some nice ceilings in this lineup. I'm not gonna lie to you. There's some good ceilings. We know what Clarkson can do. We know what Kuzma can do. Could easily be two guys with like 45, 50 fantasy points here. Kuzma maybe a little bit more than Clarkson, but we've seen it. Embiid, we know what he can give us here. We've gotten 30 plus from Sasser. We just got like 30 fantasy points out of Easton in 14 minutes. White gave us a big score against Miami earlier this year, so I like this lineup a lot. Again, playbook will be out for everybody. I'm on it. Find us in the Discord. Find us also on Twitter. You see our Twitter handles here. And come back live at 5 o'clock Eastern and make sure to check out our Listener League contest as well. For now, though, everybody, we will, as soon as I get the overlay fixed, there we go. We're resolved.
We're resolved.
I fixed the problem. All right, everybody. Good luck with some lineup construction, and we'll We'll catch you all later today.